Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into an evidence-led tactical breakdown of the August 29th, 2026 matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Seattle Seahawks. You know, the moments before kickoff are usually just packed with noise, narratives, historical reputations, all those flashy highlight reel expectations. But we're stripping all of that away today. At the elite level, this game is essentially a living, breathing math equation unfolding right there on the gridiron. We're moving way past your standard preview to build a really rigorous live decision framework. Because let's be honest, in late summer football where variables are constantly shifting, true analysis is all about what you can systematically test and verify during the actual game.
Here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the central tactical question, move into the line of scrimmage, check out the quarterbacks and secondary, dive into first quarter live cues, navigate some game states, and wrap up with our final verdict and disclaimer.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the central tactical question.
Now, if you look at neutral models processing this matchup in a vacuum, they actually project a dead even 20-20 tie. Kansas City gets a tiny 53% win probability edge as the home team, Seattle is sitting at 46%, and there's a 1% chance of a regulation tie. But hold on a second. A baseline projection like this is incredibly fragile. It leans heavily on generalized home field advantage and historical stats. In a highly tactical game, a dead even projection is kind of just a mirage. It's the math waiting for context. Think of it as a starting line, definitely not a finish line. We really need to aggressively question the variables that gave Kansas City that 53% edge in the first place.
See, these baseline numbers, they're just low information model estimates. They're neutral priors, not hard facts. For an August game, the active rosters, snap rotations, hidden injuries, even the weather conditions, they're all entirely unverified until the whistle actually blows. We can't responsibly assign current expected points added, or EPA, pressure rates, or even quarterback status to either team just yet. EPA is great. It measures the true value of a play by looking at down, distance, and field position. But if you don't know exactly which left tackle or edge rusher is actually on the field, your baseline EPA is pretty much worthless. So this is a conditional preview. The whole shebang hinges on verifying the personnel executing the scheme live.
So since we can't rely on pregame data, what do? Well, our focus shifts entirely to the process. The central tactical question becomes this: who controls early down efficiency? A truly sustainable, high-level offense doesn't rely on racking up empty yards or praying for a busted coverage to get a lucky explosive touchdown. No way. A sustainable offense creates manageable second and third downs by using mathematically efficient runs and quick, timed passes. They actively avoid third and longs, which are, as we all know, absolute drive killers. A great first down play keeps the offense ahead of the chains and lets them dictate the tempo. So we're going to be tracking normal field position success rates to see who is methodically moving the ball rather than who just gets lucky on a broken play.
Okay, let's take it to the trenches with section 2, the line of scrimmage.
Rushing efficiency is absolutely crucial because it's all about creating gains before the offense becomes predictable. The sheer physical battle up front dictates the entire mathematical flow of a drive. When an offensive line gets genuine interior displacement and sets a firm edge, it gives the running back clean access to the second level of the defense. Combine that with fighting for those critical yards after first contact, and this kind of physical dominance forces the defense to bring an extra guy into the box just to respect the run. And the second a defense commits that extra resource, bam, they are mathematically compromised in the secondary, which just blows the play-action passing game wide open.
But pass protection is just as vital. An offensive line has got to neutralize the four-man defensive pressure without having to keep a tight end or a running back in to help block. Handling the guys on the edge is expected, sure, but the real test is shutting down that interior push, defensive line twists, and those tricky simulated pressures where the defense disguises who's actually coming. If a defense can consistently blow up the pocket with just 4 rushers, they've hit the jackpot. They can drop 7 guys into coverage and still make the quarterback panic. On the flip side, if the O-line leaks interior pressure, drives stall out, expected scoring drops like a rock, and the whole game script flips to the defense.
Let's look further downfield in section 3. Quarterbacks and secondary.
How do we evaluate elite quarterback processing? It's all about real-time coverage recognition and how they handle pressure. Picture a too-high coverage shell, where 2 safeties are patrolling the deep paths of the field. Against that, a quarterback needs supreme patience. The math says, take the profitable underneath answers, hit your checkdowns, and run the ball against a lighter box. But if the defense flips to single high coverage, the dynamic changes completely. Now the QB has to recognize that safety rotation right after the snap, find the one-on-one isolation matchups on the outside, and take deep shots, assuming the protection holds up, of course. A blitz only really works if it speeds up the quarterback's internal clock into a mistake. If it doesn't, it leaves the secondary totally exposed.
And this brilliantly illustrates the game within the game. It all comes down to three huge interconnected duels. First, it's the QB against coverage and pressure. Can they spot the rotation and fire the ball quickly before the defense's four-man rush gets home? Second, it's the O-line battling the defensive front, keeping the interior clean versus defenders using stunts to slip through. And finally, the skill players versus secondary. Receivers trying to get real separation and win at the catch point, while defensive backs try to maintain leverage and make sure tackles in space. To get a true analysis, we have to ignore explosive plays that just come from a single missed tackle. Instead, we want to see which units are consistently winning these gritty, down-to-down physical matchups.
All right, Section 4, First Quarter Live Cues. Since we're flying a bit blind before kickoff, having a chronological roadmap is just essential. The first quarter, that is purely about identification. We need to see who is actually taking meaningful snaps at quarterback and on the O-line, and whether those specific units are finding early down success. Once we hit the rest of the first half, we shift to measuring overall drive quality. Are they methodically marching to the red zone from normal field position, or are they just getting lucky? And by the time the fourth quarter rolls around, our evaluation narrows right in on late-game pass protection and how well the QB is processing tactical info with the clock ticking down.
So for those opening 15 minutes, the absolute biggest mistake you can make is overreacting to the raw score. Seriously, ignore it. A fast start built on a short field or a fluky fumble recovery artificially inflates a team's dominance. Instead, look at the underlying intent. What's their actual first down pass to run mix? How is Havard's starting field position skewing their success rate? And absolutely crucial here is the defense creating pressure organically, without having to blitz. Oh, and keep an eye on pre-snap penalties. A team converting third and longs is living on borrowed time, but a team that's constantly setting up second and manageable, they're building an engine that's built to last.
Moving right along to Section 5, Navigating Game States. Once a team takes a lead, that lead falls into one of two buckets, durable or volatile. Say Kansas City takes an early lead. That advantage is only mathematically durable if they built it on sustained early down efficiency, normal field position, and disrupting the defense in a way that survives personnel changes. A lead from a fluke turnover? That's volatile and totally due for regression. Now, if Seattle leads early, that lead can turn into a suffocating chokehold if they stay ahead of the chains and keep getting that four-man pressure. That forces the trailing team into these really predictable, desperate passing situations where a simple stunt can completely wreck the pocket and basically end the game.
Now, picture this. It's a tied or one-score game, and we're entering the fourth quarter. It literally doesn't get more intense than this. In this game state, just blitzing aggressively often backfires because it leaves the secondary hanging out to dry. Expected points here come down to the quality of the active quarterback, super meticulous timeout management, and red zone execution, meaning you have to turn those trips into 7 points, not 3. A defense that can keep all its guys in coverage while still getting pressure without blitzing, they have the cleanest, most mathematically sound path to closing out the win. It totally chokes out the QB's options while keeping a lid on the deep routes.
Finally, let's wrap this up with Section 6, Final Verdict and Disclaimer.
When all is said and done, every tactical framework, EPA calculation, and pre-game model funnels down to one vital question on the field. Who controls the early downs and who generates pressure without blitzing? That's it. It's not about the logo on the helmet, it's not about historical reputation, and it's definitely not about off-season hype. This is the true deciding factor, grounded entirely in the relentless down-to-down execution of the verified players between the hash marks. So, our final verdict for this explainer is a call for ultimate discipline. Wait for the verified active lists. Live, on-field personnel, and the quality of early down execution will always trump a pregame narrative. In a game like this, where rotations and availability dictate everything, who actually comes in at QB or on the O-line carries massive weight. Actually, scratch any assumptions you have going in. You have to respect how fluid these rosters are and let the actual verified execution replace those neutral pregame priors the second the ball is kicked.
And real quick, a necessary sports analytics disclaimer before we go. The probabilities and scores we talked about today are low information priors used strictly to establish a baseline. Roster data is completely unverified before kickoff, and we aren't providing any market recommendations or wagers here. True football analysis requires a profound respect for what we do and do not know before the whistle blows. So, as Kansas City and Seattle take the field, the ultimate question remains, are you simply watching the ball, or are you finally seeing the tactical framework unfold right in front of your eyes?